How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we're talking about the iPhone 11. I bought the iPhone 11 last week. I've been using it ever since. It's been a great phone. So I just want to talk to you about what the 1 week impressions are like and how I'm feeling about the phone after moving from the iPhone XR. So I've been using the iPhone XR before this for about 6 months or so. Before that, I was on the XS Max. Before that, I was kind of switching back and forth. But for the last 6 months, it's been the iPhone XR, like as my iPhone. I did switch to Android for a little bit in there, but the iPhone always stuck around, and the XR was the one I was using. It was a great phone. I loved it. It did everything I wanted it to, and I think that at $750, it was a great compromise. So when the iPhone 11 was announced for $50 cheaper, but more or less the same thing, a little bit more upgraded, I was sold. I was like, oh my god, that is such an amazing deal, because let's be real, Apple has never dropped prices on iPhones, and now that they're doing it, they're not doing it on a cheaper iPhone. They're doing it on something that is a very premium, very good-looking phone. It has the specs and the power to justify the cost, in my opinion. So the iPhone XR, the one thing I was worried about coming from the XR was that I wouldn't feel like it's a new phone. So before, a similar kind of switch I did was the iPhone 7 Plus to 8 Plus. When I moved to those two, it felt like the same phone. I even used the same exact case, so I couldn't even tell it was a different phone. In fact, a lot of people didn't even know I'd switched phones, and they were like, oh wait, you did? I didn't notice. So it was kind of weird that way, and it did feel like the same phone. The experience was the same. There was nothing very different about it. And I'm glad to report that it wasn't the same thing this time around with the XR to 11. I do feel like the 11 has some changes and differences, and a lot of that actually had to do with not just the camera, but iOS 13 as well. It really does make the phone feel like a completely different experience. I didn't get a chance to upgrade my iPhone XR to iOS 12, so iOS 13, I'm sorry. It's still on iOS 12. So I kind of just decided not to bother, and I would start using iOS 13 brand new on this phone, and I actually really enjoyed this experience, so that's probably what I'm going to do moving forward into the future as well. I will wait till the new phone to experience the new software. The display does feel the same. It is the exact same display, so it's really not going to be any different. It's more than good enough for me. I think it does the job just fine, and the iPhone 11 bezels are just a little bit tinier when you compare it, but when you put a case on like this, you can barely tell. It looks all the same to me. So moving on, we need to talk about the cameras. That is the biggest difference. I've already made a video comparing the cameras head-to-head with a blind test and stuff. So if you haven't seen that, definitely go check it out. I'll have a card somewhere up here, and I do recommend you check that out. So the camera, I have a few notes here, so I'm going to read them out. Night mode, it does a lot better. I love night mode on the iPhones, because the one thing I'm loving about them is they don't make like night feel like day. While it's super cool, I love that on the Pixel 2, I kind of like the more, it still looks like night kind of framing of the iPhone. So I'm going to throw up this picture here of that I took. It's so crazy just to look at it. It looks like it's night, but everything in the photo is so clear and so crisp, no noise. The detail is off the charts. I love it. It looks so good, and this is exactly what I love. If I had taken this photo with the Pixel, I wish I did. I didn't have it with me at that time. I could have bet you the sky would not have been black. It would have been light blue or darker blue, because that's what the Pixel does with night photos. It makes it feel like a different time of day altogether. Not that it's a bad thing. It's just when it comes down to personal preference, I just noticed that I'm liking the night look a lot more. The one thing I will note, though, that did make me a little bit upset is that the night mode only works on the primary camera. With the Google Pixel, it works on the front camera as well, so no front camera on this. And it also works on the wide angle in the front camera with the Google Pixel, but since that's not really comparable, I'm not going to go into it. But yeah, you can't use the night mode on the ultra wide or the front camera, which I think that ultra wide I could understand, but really the front should have had that mode, because you do take selfies in low light environment. I don't know why you would include that. I just really wish that they did, but they didn't, so that was something that I noticed, and it did upset me a little bit. The wide-angle lens, the ultra-wide angle, very cool to play with, gives you some perspective that you wouldn't have seen otherwise. It just kind of is fun to mess with. You can get some very artistic and creative shots. You can make things look a lot more distorted than they are, so something that I think a lot of people will enjoy messing with. Not something I would necessarily think is an important feature to have, but it's a great feature to have. And as I said, I was using the XR all last year. That single primary camera was more than enough. Anything beyond that was, it would be cool to have it, but not necessary. Front-facing camera is on another level. Finally, I can feel like I finally I feel like I can compare the front camera of the iPhone to other Android phones now, because iPhones have been lacking in the front camera department for far too long. I've complained about this. Nobody seems to care. Nobody noticed. Nobody else brought up this complaint as far as I can tell. The iPhone front cameras, all the way, going back all the way, I'm going to say to the iPhone 7, that was where I really started to notice a clear difference, where the Android front cameras were just way better. I'm not even talking like the flagship. I'm talking even the OnePlus ones are so much better with the front-facing camera. But this time, we get a new improved camera. So we have a lot more detail now. Night photos are still lacking, but it's better. That's something, but it's still not good. I'm not going to fool you into thinking it's better. It's not good. Night photos from the front camera are not good, but the front-facing photos are awesome. You get some really good shots, and the detail is just a lot better now when you compare it to the iPhone XR. And I'll put up a photo so you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Another thing that I really do like is that portrait mode now works on anything. You don't have to have a person to have portrait mode work on the iPhone 11. It will work on anything. I tested it out with my hand, so I kept my hand out and I got a portrait mode photo out of it. Looks amazing. It's perfectly done. Everything's in focus like it needs to be, so I really liked it. I'm glad that the iPhone 11 finally has the option to take portrait photos without it having to be a person in the frame. And continuing on with the camera stuff, the video quality is now even further improved from what it was. So anybody who's used an iPhone knows that video quality is unrivaled. Nobody can even come close to touching iPhone in video. And this year, they just further improved that lead. I'm so impressed. You can now get extended dynamic range on the 60 FPS settings as well. So everything looks a lot better on video. You can even tweak and edit videos on the phone right itself, and that's crazy. You can't even edit photos natively like that. Edit videos natively like that on the on Final Cut Pro. So that's something that's crazy to me. You need some other software to do that on Final Cut Pro, but oh my God, it's so awesome to see these features on an iPhone, something that you have with you, something you can do. So this phone will shoot amazing video. So if you want to share, make videos on YouTube and stuff, I think that go for an iPhone, and that's all the camera you really need. And I really do like the video mode also does allow you to switch between the lenses without any issue. That's something iPhones have always been able to do, but surprisingly enough, Androids don't do so. In Androids, you can't switch between the lenses. In this, while you're filming, you can switch between lenses, so especially when you're taking video, it's cool to be able to switch between ultra-wide and wide, depending on the situation and where you're standing. And moving on, I do want to talk about battery life. Now, battery life, Apple didn't make a big deal out of this, but they did say that this has 1 hour more of battery life. From what I've noticed, at the end of the day, if, say, I had 20% on the XR, I have like 25, 24, somewhere around there on the 11. I haven't used it long enough to, get down to the details. My usage has been a little bit more sporadic, but from what I've noticed, there is a slight improvement, but nothing that would be very noticeable. It's only if you're paying attention you'd be like, oh wait, yeah, the battery's lasting just a tiny bit longer. But I'll take any battery improvement any day, so I'm happy about that. I'm not going to complain about it. And finally, the one thing that I still haven't been able to truly experience is Dolby Atmos sound. So they do have like this spatial sound where sound is supposed to kind of envelop you. I'm not sure. I forgot the term they used, but yeah, it's supposed to kind of form this little area where you can spatially hear audio move through like a circle, I think. So I've tried to listen. While I do notice improvements in speaker, that particular feature I just can't pick up on. Maybe I'm not watching the right content. If you guys do have a recommendation for that, I'd love to know what video or what you guys use to kind of experience the spatial sound and Dolby Atmos that the iPhone does support now. And yeah, that's it. That's, the first impressions of the iPhone 11. As I say, a great phone. If you're considering it, don't have any second doubts. This is a great phone, and you will love it. If you're happy with iPhones, this is something that is a very solid and very safe upgrade, and I very happily recommend it to everyone. So if you guys haven't followed me yet, I would really appreciate it if you follow me on social media. All the links down here. And I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to me as well for more videos on the iPhone 11. I'm going to be making the major iPhone 11 versus XR video in a couple of days down the road here, just to compare and see which one is the one to buy in 2019 if you're on a budget. So that's going to be it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.